So, I hope everyone's doing okay. The session today is about free tools for job seekers. So we're going to cover ChatGPT, Teal, and the LinkedIn Resume Builder. ChatGPT is going to be most of the workshop because there's a lot to cover here on how to help you optimize your CV and prepare for job interviews. And then Teal is a job application tracker that makes your life a lot easier. And the LinkedIn Resume Builder does what it says. It's to build a CV, but I recommend using it for something else. It's more to identify keywords and optimize your CV rather than actually build it from scratch. And you should have a CV by now based on the rest of the program that we already completed, the Northern Trust CV workshop and the guide and the templates that I shared. So you should have that done by now, and hopefully you've already engaged with an employment expert. If you haven't, I know the deadline for the CV session has passed, but let me know if you still want to do that. We do have a few people available. And for the LinkedIn profile as well, we do have people available. Do let me know. This is a great opportunity. Usually, if you were to book an individual session with someone like that, you would pay probably a couple of €100 for a 1 hour session. So this is a great opportunity for you to get that for free and really expert advice. And we're not getting that many people booking those sessions. So if you are interested, please do let me know. So I said we're recording. A couple of people joined since. Again, if you have any issue with being on the recording, just turn off your camera, please. We're gonna share that with everyone from the program later and have it on our YouTube channel. I would like to ask everyone, I know everyone has their microphones off, but just reminding you to keep them off during the session. If you do have a question, feel free to unmute yourself. Everyone who knows me knows those sessions are pretty informal, so feel free to interrupt me and ask a question if you have one. So like I said, today we're going to cover ChatGPT, Teal, and LinkedIn Resume Builder, and we're going to have some time for a Q&A at the end. So just before we start, I wanted to really quickly cover who this workshop is for. So this is for anyone who's looking for a job or who might be looking for a job in the future. There's absolutely no need to have a background in tech and understand those digital tools. We're going to cover it from the very kind of first steps. And it's for those who want to save time and maximize their chances of finding employment. Uh, I know that a lot of people on this program have been looking for work for quite some time. So these tools, like we created this workshop to help you leverage these tools to maximize your chances of at least being called for an interview and then help you prepare for those as well. Like I said, we're going to cover those 3 tools. And just before we get started, I wanted to just mention that we recommend using Chrome when using those tools. You see why as I'm going through them, but basically, if you use another browser, most of these tools were built not for Chrome, but I've tested it extensively with Chrome and it works really well. And Teal specifically has an extension for Chrome specifically, so you won't be able to use that extension on another browser. The other thing is that you're gonna have to create accounts on all of these tools. They are all free, but if you don't have an account, you won't be able to just get started right away. I wouldn't say that you need to do this right now. Maybe finish the workshop and then go on these websites and create those accounts. So just before we start with ChatGPT, I wanted to ask, has anyone used any of these tools before? ChatGPT or Teal or the the LinkedIn Resume Builder. You can use the chat function. I do have a poll actually, might as well use that. Let me see. So I just launched a poll there asking, have you used ChatGPT, Teal, or LinkedIn Resume Builder in your job search? And the options are, yes, I use those tools or at least one of those tools consistently in my job search, or yes, I have used that maybe a few times or once, or no, I have never used these tools. And this is anonymous. I won't be able to see who answered what. So we're starting to get pretty even results. So a few people have used use it consistently. A few people have used it once or a few times, and some people have never used it at all, which is interesting. Okay, so let's see if we can change that by the end of the workshop. So starting with ChatGPT. So what is it? So ChatGPT is a computer program that was designed to understand and generate human-like text responses. And that's through like a wide variety of questions and prompts. You can ask it basically anything, and it will at least try to answer correctly, but its focus is to answer pretty much like a human would. So it's basically a chatbot, but a really smart one that was just designed to talk like a human. You might have heard of it because it became very, very popular very fast. It gained more than 1 million users in 5 days. And just to give you an idea of how fast that is, it took Facebook almost 2 years to reach that number of users. So it's pretty impressive that they reached that amount of users so fast. One thing to keep in mind is that it doesn't have access to the internet if you're on the free account. So its knowledge base only goes up to 2021. So you can't really ask it like who won a match last week because it doesn't know that. But it can help you with your CV and preparing for interviews because it doesn't need the internet for that. It is free. They have a premium version, which is paid, but you don't need it for the functionality that we're going to cover today. It's not 100% reliable on the free tool, but it's pretty reliable. It's pretty consistent. And if it's not working at a point that you need it, like if you come back half an hour later, it's usually back on. It's just because there's a lot of people using it at the same time. So on the free tier, sometimes it will say like there's too many people using it, come back later. And like I said, you do need an account to use it, but it's free and it doesn't take long at all to create it. So just before we get into ChatGPT, I wanted to do another poll with you, and I like to ask everyone this question. So based on, our previous workshops and our guide and everything that you've learned so far, what would you say it's the top thing that you can do to your CV to make you stand out from other candidates and, maximize your chances of being called for an interview? So I'm just going to publish the poll here. Again, this is anonymous. I cannot see what you say. Don't fear getting it wrong. So the first option is double check your contact information is correct. The other is use a professional email address, then list key responsibilities for each work experience that you've had, and tailor your CV to each job you apply for. So from those four options, which one would you say is the most important one? Can everyone see the poll? Okay. If you're having any issues, let me know. Yeah, I see only one response so far. I see Roba, you type something on the chat, but I don't see your answer on the poll. Can you see the poll? Yeah, it's not coming up here. Anyway, technology for you. So I would say, so all of these are very important, okay? Double checking your contact information is correct is a very basic thing that you should do. Otherwise, the recruiter won't be able to contact you. But it's not the thing that's going to make you stand out. Using a professional email address, again, is a basic thing that you need to do. Otherwise, someone might not think you're taking this seriously if you have an email like I love basketball 89 or something like that. So that's another important thing, but I wouldn't say it's the top one. List the key responsibilities for each work experience you've had. Yes, you must do that on your CV, But again, that's not going to make you stand out because everyone's going to be doing that. So in my opinion, and that's what we're trying to kind of teach and focus on with this program, is that you have to tailor your CV to each job you apply for. This is what's going to make you stand out. The other three are necessary as well to make you, be a part of the competition. But if you tailor your CV to that job, that's what's going to make the reader go, oh, this person is actually qualified to do this, to solve this specific issue that we're having, to fill in this role that we're recruiting for. So, and that's what I'm going to try to get you to understand here. It's how to use ChatGPT to do just that. So, just before we get into the step by step, I just wanted to go through a few things that you should use ChatGPT for and some things that you should not use ChatGPT for. So it can be used as an assistant to help you customize your CV. It can help you analyze the job description, identify the right keywords to be included, generate new ideas for metrics and achievements that you could include in your CV. It can also be used to rewrite the information you have in a more formal and professional way, and also check your spelling. This is a great way to just, if you don't have someone to double check your CV for you, you can just throw it on ChatGPT and say, can you check the spelling for everything? Can you make it sound a bit more professional? And it will do it for you. One thing to note here is that ChatGPT will use American English spelling, so I still recommend that you use a spell checker even after this. So it will correct your grammar, but some words will be a little bit different because it will use American English. For some jobs, this is not really important, but for some jobs where, maybe you have to write, like if you're in marketing, for example, or if you're, going to be in customer support, writing with business clients, then, you need to show that you write in British or Irish English. So it's important to use a spell checker that's set to British English. There are a few things here that you should not use ChatGPT for. It should not be used to write everything for you. The recruiters, the hiring managers nowadays, they can tell if you use ChatGPT to just write your whole CV for you, and unfortunately, they don't like that. So, if you are using ChatGPT, just make sure that it still sounds like you and that you are putting in the data and the information that it needs to generate that CV or cover letter for you. So we won't write everything for you. You give it the information, you give it, your achievements, your responsibilities, everything. You just make it, a little bit better structured and give you ideas of how to improve it. If you don't do that, it doesn't know exactly what you've done before. It doesn't know your history, so it won't be able to generate good content. You also shouldn't use it like to get it to write responses for you, for example, for a job interview and memorize that, because it's going to be very difficult for you to explain that during a job interview if you just memorize something that a robot wrote. So you should really understand it and be able to explain it naturally. If you don't understand it, don't add it to your CV. Don't use it in a job interview because it's probably not true if you don't understand what it's saying. So you can ask it to explain it. You can ask it to kind of uh, detail what it just said in a different way until it makes sense for you and it's truth based on your experience. Remember that it makes mistakes too, so don't trust it blindly. Um, Check it. If there's something there that doesn't seem right, please do correct it. It's not a perfect technology. Um, and like I said, do feed it the necessary information. If you just say create a CV for this job, it's going to create a random CV that has nothing to do with your experience and your skills. So it's not really what you want. So to build your CV using ChatGPT, I would recommend following these three kind of major steps. First, you need to analyze the job description. I would always start with this step because then it will know the job that you're applying for really well and generate results based on that. And like I said before, this is the top thing that's going to make you stand out is if your CV is tailored to that job. So if you don't feed it that information first, you might not understand the job description that well, but certainly ChatGPT won't understand it that well, which is not what we want. Then the second big step is to feed it your information. So this step might take a little bit longer the way I'm going to teach you, but as you kind of do this a few times, you won't have to go through all of these steps that we're going to share here today. This is mostly for the first time that you do it. Once you have a great CV that you're happy with, this is going to be basically a copy and paste job. You'll have a master CV with all your experiences. You can go copy and paste that into ChatGPT, and it will know. It already knows the job description, it knows your background, and it's going to be able to match that. Then finally, when you have a good CV structure based on what ChatGPT, so you fed information to ChatGPT, it gave you like, this is how I would do your CV for you. And then the third step, it is adding quantifiable results. And this is where you're gonna really stand out again. A very small group of people actually do this on their CV. And it's something that recruiters often look for is to see what your achievements were and if you can measure those. So they expect to see that the vast majority of people don't do that. So when you do it, it really helps you stand out. And ChatGPT is very good at doing this. So it's something that I use almost daily when I'm supporting people with their CVs. You just have to make sure that it is reflecting your actual experience because it will give you a lot of ideas and examples. And I see a lot of participants just copying and pasting that without thinking about it. And a lot of times this won't reflect your actual experience. So just keep working with it until it does. So the very first practical step is to go to chat.openai.com and create your account or log in if you already have one. If you don't have an account, you can create one with a Google account, a Facebook account, I think. So it's pretty straightforward. And if not, you can just input your information there. So then we'll start chatting with ChatGPT. So the first thing to do is, like I said, to ask it to analyze the job description. So basically, I want you to start by entering this exact prompt. So a prompt is simply like a question or a command that you give to ChatGPT to ask it to do something. And I'm going to use this word throughout the workshop today, prompt. So the prompt here is, I want to apply for this job. Then I copied and pasted the job description. And that needs to include at least the tasks, the responsibilities, the skills, and it doesn't have to include necessarily like the salary and things like that, but I would copy and paste everything. Then you continue after that. Please analyze this job description and tell me which skills I should highlight on my CV to apply for this role. Okay, so what you're doing here is it's not going to build a magic CV for you. What it's going to do is tell you which are the skills that they're looking for that you can make stand out in your CV. That's basically what the recruiter is going to be looking for. So you want to make it easy for them to find it. So for the purposes of this workshop, I found this job description on LinkedIn. It's for a technical support manager role in Cork. You can see there's a job summary there with a list of responsibilities. If you kept scrolling, you would see a list of essential and desired skills as well. So what I would do is literally just copy and paste that on ChatGPT as part of that prompt from the previous slide. Then this is what ChatGPT is going to write back to me. So it said, based on the provided job description, here are the key skills and qualifications you should highlight on your CV when applying for the technical support manager role. And you can see it gave me a list. It was longer than this. I only put the first 3 there. But it starts with technical expertise. Emphasize your strong technical knowledge and experience in diagnosing, troubleshooting, and repairing complex solutions. So you can see that it's very specific to the job description. And it goes beyond just saying, oh, you need technical knowledge. It actually lists, what type of technical knowledge that the company is looking for. Then it does the same for people management, for customer service, and so on. So it lists, and that's what I highlighted there in yellow. Like, I need to know diagnosing, troubleshooting, cloud services. In terms of people management, I need to have direct oversight of direct reports. I need to be able to develop and evaluate personnel. In terms of customer service, I need to work with customers in high stress or ambiguous situations to resolve complex problems. So those are the things that I need, at the very top of my CV, because that's what the recruiter is going to be looking for. So now that you understand the key requirements of the job description, the next step is to get ChatGPT to ask you questions so it can learn more about you, about your skills, about your experience, and your achievements. This takes a little while at the beginning, but I promise it's worth it, because once it learns that, it's going to help you create a really, really strong CV. But it needs to understand your experience. And after you've done that once and you have a good CV, you see that you won't have to actually type that in every time. You can copy and paste it. So the prompt here that you need is, I'm revising my CV. I worked as a job title at company industry for an amount of time. I'm going to enter my work experience from this position. So it's for one position specifically. It's not for your whole work experience history. And then you say, please ask as many questions as you need in order to help me rewrite my CV to sound more main focus of job description. So this is what you got from the previous slide, okay? And emphasize my ability to skills from job description analysis. So these two last things, you can only complete that if you've done the first step. And I'll give you an example now. So the example based on the answer that I got previously is, I'm revising my CV. I worked as a customer service manager in retail for 5 years. So you can see it's a little bit different than like technical customer support. So that's why I'm using ChatGPT here to really help me, tailor my CV to that role, because it's not really what I've been doing. And then you say, I'm going to enter my work experience from this position. Please ask as many questions as you need in order to help me rewrite my CV to sound more technical and professional. Okay, so those technical was the first thing that we saw there that ChatGPT analyzed for us. And professional is something that I would recommend every time so that your CV will sound professional. And emphasize my ability to. And then literally, I'm just using what ChatGPT told me on the previous step. So diagnose, troubleshoot, and repair complex solutions, use cloud services, oversee direct reports. So these were the sentences, the words that I marked in yellow there on a couple of slides before. So I'm using what ChatGPT said to me was important in the job description to ask ChatGPT to ask me questions so that we can create a CV based that is very focused on those skills and on those experiences. So after you insert that prompt, it's going to come back with something like this. Sure, here are a few questions to help you revise your CV and highlight the desired skills and experiences. So it's obviously going to ask me, what were your primary responsibilities? Then it's going to start asking very specific things from what we said. Did you encounter any complex problems or situations that required diagnosing, troubleshooting, and resolving? See that it's using exactly the same words as before. Did you utilize any technical tools or software systems in your role? Have you worked with or gained exposure to cloud services in your position? So you see that it's asking very relevant questions to that job description. Then the next step is to answer those questions. And if you're not sure how to answer some of these questions, that like they might be a little bit complex or you might not actually know what to say there, that's okay. You can ask ChatGPT to give you some inspiration. Obviously, a lot of the answers are not going to be exactly, your experience and your skills and exactly your situation. But you can ask it to give you one or more examples of answers to these questions. And then this is going to help inspire you and kind of remember, oh, I actually did do something like this. And then you can just copy and paste that, change it a little bit to reflect your real experience, and then feed it back to ChatGPT. And then, so the prompt for if you want to do this is just say, can you please give me examples of answers to questions 1, 3, and 5, or whatever the questions are that you're struggling with. So in this case, I said, can you please give me examples of answers to questions 3, 5, and 8? And then it will come back to you. Certainly, here are some examples of how you could answer the questions to highlight your technical and professional skills. So you see that it gives you one example per question, but you could come back and say, can you give me 3 more examples for question number 3? And it's going to give you those examples and you can work from those. It's going to make it a lot easier if you're struggling with a couple of questions. Then once you have answered all of those questions, what's going to happen is that ChatGPT is going to give you a list of statements. So it's going to say, great, based on your answers, here are some revised statements that you can include in your CV to highlight your technical and professional skills. So this is basically what ChatGPT wants you to copy and paste as part of that experience in your CV. I do not want you to just copy and paste this. This is very important. A lot of this is going to be wrong, and not because ChatGPT is not good. It's just because it doesn't know everything about you. It's going to be explained in a way that you probably wouldn't explain it. There might be things that it made up there because it didn't have enough information still. So it could have said, led a team of 5 customer service representatives, and you might have led 3 or 10 or 20 because you didn't feed it that information and it wanted to include it. It sometimes just makes up information. So do review it in detail and go through all of these statements. And I would recommend including maybe 5 to 7 statements. Those statements are basically, those bullet points for each work experience that you have. So include 5 to 7 tops for relevant experiences. And if it's an experience that's not that relevant, I would only include maybe 3 or 4. Okay, so then the next step is to add quantifiable results. Like I said before, only a very small percentage, so 40% of CVs include more than 3 impact metrics. So this is how you're going to stand out. So imagine if you are including those metrics, you're basically already doing better than 60% of the people who applied for that role. So it's a really easy way to make you just, kind of skip that queue and get at the top of the pile. So the suggested prompt here is, can you please suggest quantifiable results for each of those statements? So again, you review those statements, you send it back to ChatGPT, and you say, those are the statements that I'm going to include in my CV. Can you please suggest quantifiable results for each of them? So it's going to come back and say, certainly, because it's always very polite, and say, here are some quantifiable results that you can consider incorporating into each statement. So remember before it said, led a team of 5 customer service representatives. I might actually go back. Led a team of 5 customer service representatives ensuring exceptional customer experiences and resolving complex issues and complaints. If you go back to the new one, it said resulting in a 20% increase in customer satisfaction ratings and a 15% decrease in customer complaints within the first year of leadership. So you see that's very different from the first one, because this one shows that you had a really interesting result for the company, but not only that you measured that and that you understand the results. You understand that your actions had a positive consequence for the company. And that's very important because most roles today, companies are looking for that from you. They're looking for you to understand a little bit of data and show your achievements. Because there's no point in saying I led a team of 5 people if you achieve nothing together. So that's how you show that you've actually did a good job as part of this task. Obviously, 20% is not going to be the right number. 15% decrease in customer complaints, it's not going to be the right number because ChatGPT cannot, guess exactly those metrics. So you go in and update this based on your actual experience. If you don't have access to this data, ask it to generate new quantifiable results. Say, are there can you give me a list of like 5 or 10 metrics that I could use here on the first statement? And one of them is probably something you have access to or you remember, and then you can focus on those. You don't need metrics in all of your statements. That's important. Sometimes you won't have it, and that's okay. But like I said, at least maybe 3 or 4 per work experience. I think that really will make you stand out. So these are just a few examples. Sometimes adding quantifiable results doesn't have to be that complex. It doesn't have to be like a percentage that improved. It can literally just be led a team of 5 customer service representatives or worked within a team of 15 customer service representatives, ensuring exceptional customer services and resolving complex issues for over 100 customers daily. So you see that I didn't have to do any math here. I just looked back at my time working there and I remember that we used to support about 100 customers daily. So you include that. Or provided comprehensive training to over 25 employees annually and implemented a mentorship program that enhanced the technical and customer service skills of over 50 new employees. So mentioning those numbers is not necessarily, a percentage that you have to have there. Just mentioning that you've worked with that many people, supported that many people, or worked with a budget this size. This shows that you understand a little bit about data, and it shows that the scale of what you've accomplished as part of that role. And then you basically repeat that process for all of your other work experiences. Like I said, this is going to take some time at first, but it's still going to be less time than if you did it, manually by yourself. And then once you have a really strong CV, and you can maybe do this the first time without a specific job description, or you can use a more generic job description, and then you have your master CV, and then all you have to do is adapt it every time you apply for a new role. So you input the job description, the first steps are going to be the same, but then what you can say is ask me questions, review my whole CV here that I have, and make it more appropriate for that specific job description. And that should only take you, 3 to 5 minutes to do, and then you're ready to go and ready to apply. So here the prompt can be thank you, because we're also polite, and say, let's continue revising my CV. I worked as a job title at company industry for this amount of time. I'm going to enter my work experience from this position. Please ask me as many questions. So it's the same prompt as before, but you keep doing that for every work experience, at least the relevant ones. If you are applying for a project manager role and you were a receptionist like 10 years ago, you don't have to go through this process, because it's going to be, a short description of a role that you did a long time ago that's not super relevant for this. You can literally just include maybe 1 or 2 bullet points there, and you can ask it, obviously, to help you kind of review that, but you don't have to go through this whole process. Then when you finish repeating this process for all of your work experience on your CV, and remember, you don't have to include everything you've ever done, only include experiences that are relevant, or that have transferable skills that you'd like to highlight on your CV. But after all of that, you can start writing your personal statement. So don't start with your personal statement. You finish with your personal statement. It is going to be the first thing on your CV, but it's very important that you really have a great CV first, because then it's going to be a lot easier for you to write a personal statement that's not generic. The thing that I see the most on CVs that I get from participants is just that people have really generic personal statements saying like, oh, I'm goal oriented, I'm a team player, and I'm looking for a job at this company to contribute to the results and success of the company. This is very generic. Everyone is going to write that. It's not going to make you stand out. Your personal statement should be specific to that role. If you only have time to change one thing on your CV, change this before you apply, because the reader, that's the first thing they're going to see. And if you're mentioning the right keywords, if you're mentioning that you have the experience they're looking for, they're going to keep reading. If it's a generic thing, they might not. So yeah, so Once you have that work experience, your education, your achievements, skills, training, everything, you can ask ChatGPT to write your personal statement. So the prompt is, thank you very much. Here's my updated CV. Copy and paste your whole CV because it needs all of that information. Please write a personal statement that is under 100 words. It should be focused on the skills, experiences that are relevant for the job description I provided earlier. Or you can literally copy and paste, the relevant skills that ChatGPT told you you should have. Whatever you prefer. It will remember. It remembers as long as you're using the same chat. So you can start a new chat with ChatGPT and then it won't have access to different chats. But if you're on the same one, it should be able to go back and read that job description that you provided, even if it was days ago. Again, very important, this has to be relevant to that job. So if you don't include this part of the prompt, it's going to write you a good but generic personal statement that is not going to make you stand out as much. And one thing to note here is sometimes I think we struggle a little bit because we might have a certain kind of skill or achievement that we're really proud of. Like I'm really proud of my data analytics skills. I completed like a master's degree on it, and I've been doing it for a long time, and I'm really great at it. If that job did not mention data at all, it shouldn't go here, even though it's great, even though you're gonna, like you think you're gonna bring this to your new role, it shouldn't be at the very top of your CV because it's not what they're looking for. If it wasn't mentioned anywhere or hinted anywhere that data is gonna be important, then I wouldn't mention it here, even if you're proud of it. You can mention it somewhere else in your education, in your training, in your experiences before, but not necessarily here. Here, I would literally go back to what ChatGPT told you about what are the skills you should highlight, and you should highlight them here. So it's going to write you a personal statement based on that. It's quite long. I would ask ChatGPT to make it shorter if it's this long here. And you can all obviously make some changes to it. And then you probably know we recommend adding highlights after your personal statement. If you saw our CV template, you know this, because it will help the recruiter or the hiring manager quickly find your most relevant skills and achievements for that specific role. So the prompt you can use here is please write 3 to 5 bullet points with key skills, quantifiable results, and or achievements that you recommend I highlight at the top of my CV. So it's going to come back with a long list. You're not going to use this as is because it's very long. This would take you almost like the first page of your CV. That's not what we want. We want the personal info, personal statement, and highlights to be under half a page. But this is a great start. So you can play with this and maybe choose 1 or 2 bullet points here that make sense, or you summarize the bullet points that it provided. But you can see here that it's very kind of focused on achievements. It has like 20% increase in customer satisfaction, 10% reduction in average response time, 95% customer issue resolution rate. So those are things that ChatGPT thinks are very important for you to have at the top of your CV. So I would recommend, sticking to those if you have access to those numbers, and just make sure it's more summarized than that. And like I said, you can keep asking ChatGPT to make it shorter, and it will help you do that if you're struggling with doing that by yourself. So the final product is going to be something like this. So you have your name at the top, your contact details. I always recommend including at least one job title, which is the actual job title you're applying for, but you can add maybe 1 or 2 others to show that you're actually like you have a broader kind of reach and you have experience in other areas that are relevant. So don't, like I said before, let's use the same example. If you're a project manager applying for a project manager role and 10 years ago you were a receptionist, I wouldn't put that here because it's not that relevant. It was a long time ago, so it's not important. But if you were a program manager a couple of years ago, that's very relevant. The skills are very similar, so you can include that here. Or if you were a team leader, you can also include that here. That shows that, look, I actually have experience doing other things that are very relevant. And you see that, so there, like on our template, we call it profile, you can call it personal statement, but you can see it's a short description of yourself, focus on that job. So in this case, it says, with over 5 years of experience as a customer service manager, I possess a strong foundation in diagnosing, troubleshooting, and resolving complex issues. Remember, this was from the job description. While ensuring exceptional customer experiences. This was also from the job description. If you don't have experience with diagnosing troubleshooting, you should not have that on your CV. These are examples based on your own experience, but that match the job description. I have successfully leveraged cloud services and implemented self-service initiatives to enhance operational efficiency and customer satisfaction. Again, this is very similar wording to the job description. As a seasoned leader, I have overseen direct reports, selected and developed personnel, and fostered cross-functional collaboration, all from the job description. Thriving in high-stress environments, I excel at resolving complex problems by utilizing my technical expertise and delivering innovative solutions. So you can see that's very tailored to that job. You wouldn't use the same CV if you were applying for a retail support, customer support manager role, because it wouldn't be as focused on your technical expertise. So I hope that makes sense. It's the same for the highlights. It's very focused on those skills that ChatGPT said would be most important from the job description. All right. Any questions so far? There's someone typing in the chat, so I'll just give them a second. Okay, I think they stopped. Nope, it's here. Talita, question here. As you mentioned, it's tailored to one job opening. So for another one, do I need to do all of this again? Yes. However, it's not going to take as long, like I said. So once I would recommend having a master CV, okay? So you find a job description online that is something you really want, but it's not super specific. So we can go back to the customer support example. So let's say I've been working in retail forever, but now I want to work in a technical customer support role. I find a job description that is for a technical customer support role, but not necessarily focusing on like diagnosing and troubleshooting, because I don't have experience with that. So I'm gonna find a job that makes sense based on my experience that I really want, and I'll use that as kind of my most desired job that I would like, and as more of a generic job description. I can remove stuff that I don't have from that and then feed it to ChatGPT. And then I can say, help me write a CV for that role. You're going to keep doing that, and it's going to take maybe 30 to 40 minutes to do all of that, okay? It's not going to take hours, especially if you already have a CV. It's going to take 30 to 40 minutes because I've done it multiple times, okay? Then once you have that master CV, it has all your experiences, everything you've ever done in your life. This is going to probably be a few pages long, uh, and you should then work on that. So let's say it's 4 pages long. You always work on based on that to create a CV for that job description that's about 2, maximum 3 pages long. And then you can use ChatGPT for that. So you feed it the job description, and then you feed it your master CV. So instead of going, work experience by work experience, you can just say, based on the job description that I provided earlier, and based on this CV that I have, what would you change, to make it more focused on this new job description? And then it's going to do it for you. It's probably, again, going to be too long, and then you can start cutting out. So you can even ask ChatGPT, which of those work experiences would you consider, would you recommend me removing any of those job descriptions based on relevancy for this role, for example? And it's pretty good at doing that. So that's what I would recommend using it for. So I'm just conscious of time, so I'm going to keep going. Great. I'm happy to hear that, Victoria. So I'm just going to keep going. The next couple of things, couple of tools are a lot quicker, so I'm hoping to get through them in the next 15 minutes. Sorry, just one more thing on ChatGPT. So you can use it to prepare for interviews as well. So this would be a completely different chat, okay? But if you are called for a job interview, when you're called for a job interview, you can enter this prompt. I'm preparing for a job interview for this role, copy and paste the job description. This is my CV, copy and paste your CV, the CV that you use for that role, okay? And then you say, please come up with 20 questions that I'm likely to be asked on the interview by the recruiter. Include competency-based questions. It can be 10 questions, it can be 50 questions, however amount of time you would like to prepare for that role. It's going to come back. So this is just, a prompt that you can use to give you examples of answers as well. So it's going to give you some questions, but if you're not really sure how to answer them, or if you want, really good examples, you can say, can you please give me examples of excellent answers for each of these questions? Please use the STAR method when appropriate. This is very important. We haven't actually covered this on this program, but you might be aware of what it is. The STAR method means situation, task, action, and result. It's a framework to help you shape your answers. And we're going to cover this in detail in the job interview workshop that's going to be delivered by Bank of America in a couple of weeks. So the prompt is, this is a third option for what you can do. So you can ask it to generate questions and generate answers, and you can practice by yourself, or you can actually ask it to act like an interviewer. This is a little bit different because it won't teach you how to do anything, but it will practice with you. It will be like a role play, So the same as doing mock interviews, but it's typing with ChatGPT. So you can say, I want you to act like the interviewer for a job. I'll be the candidate, and you ask me the interview questions for, then you include the job title and the company. Here's the job description, include the job description. I want you to only do the interview with me. Do not write all the conversation at once. Ask me the questions and wait for my answers. Do not write explanations. All of these are very important, so I would suggest copying and pasting that, otherwise it won't work. And then you finish with ask me the questions one by one, like an interviewer does, and wait for my answers. My first sentence is hi. So once you do this, it's going to come back to you as the interviewer, and it's going to say, hi, thank you for joining us today. I'm glad to have the opportunity to interview you for the program manager, global talent mobility. So this is the one that I chose for this example. Position at Salesforce. Let's get started. Can you tell me about your experience in global mobility, in a global mobility capacity, particularly in expatriate and relocation program management? So it's very specific to that role, and it's asking me those questions, and then you can type in the answers, and it will keep asking you follow-up questions and more questions for the interview. By the end, you can ask it to provide your feedback and say, which of those answers do you have any recommendations for me to improve? So just conscious of time, so I'm going to move quickly here. The second tool that I want to talk about today is Teal. So Teal is a personal career growth platform that helps job seekers keep track of their job applications. So it's basically a way for you to manage your applications so they don't get lost. The first step is to go to app.tealhq.com. Again, you have to create an account. Once you start creating your account, it's going to give you the Teal steps. So that's what we're going to follow here today. The first step is to set your career goal. So you're going to choose a job title, a target date for getting that job, minimum and maximum salary, currency, which is probably euro if you're in Europe. And then that's it. You have your main goal. Then you should install their Chrome extension. Like I said before, if you don't use Chrome, I would just suggest that you download it for your job search, because it's just going to work a lot better. If you don't know what a browser extension is, don't worry. It's basically an additional tool that you can add for free. There is basically, after you install it, there's going to be a little button at the top of your browser or at the bottom. I'll show you how it works, how it's going to look on the Teal extension. And then when you click it, it performs a task. In this case, it's going to help you save a job description from another website. So once you're creating your account, Teal itself is going to prompt you to download this. So it's going to give you the link, you click on it, and you're going to see this page here. And then you just click on that button there that says Add to Chrome, and it's going to install it. Then you're going to start adding jobs to the tracker. So Teal tells you to add 3 jobs to the tracker, but that's just to get started. You can add as many as you'd like, of course. The way that the browser works is that when you're on LinkedIn, on Indeed, the browser extension, when you're on any of those job search websites, not any of them because they have to be connected to Teal, but LinkedIn, Indeed, they definitely work. What's going to happen is that when you're browsing those, that little green button there is going to pop up. And then when you click on it, this is what's going to show up. So it's going to say add job to Teal. There's going to be the job there. So you see customer services manager at CPL. And then it's going to list the top 5 hard skills that it's looking for. You can add any notes. You can say how excited you are for that job. And then you click on save job and it's going to be saved to Teal on that tracker that I showed earlier. So it's going to be basically this here. So on your job tracker, you're going to have a list of all the jobs that you're interested in, the jobs that you have already applied for. And as you can see at the top there, there's basically a pipeline. So you have 3 jobs bookmarked here, so saved, but then you start moving those jobs on this pipeline. So maybe some of them you're already applying for, some of them you have already applied for, some of them you were called for an interview, some of them you're negotiating a salary, and some of them, and one maybe, you accepted. So once you get there, that means great, goal achieved. So then the next step is to start actually moving at least one of these jobs further down the pipeline. So you would go to applying. So once you click, so just go back here. Once you click on any of these jobs, you open basically the description that it automatically pulled from LinkedIn or from Indeed. So in this example, there's a role at ESB. I found it on my job tracker, clicked on it, it opened the screen. At the top there, you see at what stage I'm at for this job. So I'm actually applying now. So I'm working on my application. And you see that right here on Teal, I can see the full job description, the hard skills that were listed there, and there's also a step-by-step guide on how to go about applying. So you can see on the right there, it says guidance, and then it says first step is to get a referral, and then there's the sub steps. Then customize your resume. So see, it's not just me saying that. Teal is also saying you should customize your CV to each role. Then customize your cover letter, identify the recruiter or hiring manager for that job. So you won't necessarily be able to do all of those steps for every job, but for the ones that you're at 4 or 5 stars of excitement, I would recommend going through this because it really increases your chances of being called for an interview. Okay. So then the next step is to create or upload your CV. So you should have a CV here. You should have used ChatGPT to customize it. So you just upload it. There's no need to make any changes to it. But Teal will help you review your CV. So in this case, it was not a good CV. So it says the overall score is 44%. I can improve the resume structure, the measurable results. So those are the same as the quantifiable achievements that I mentioned earlier. And keyword usage, like there's a lot of issues there. So there's no email on the CV I uploaded. I didn't include my city. I didn't include the target title. I didn't include a professional summary. So it's going to list all of those basic issues that they call, and then you can address each one. You shouldn't have all of those issues if you followed our guidelines and use ChatGPT, but you could still have a couple of them, especially around keywords, because you might be missing a few that could be important. And if you miss that from ChatGPT, Teal will find it for you. So as you can see, my fake CV was not a great match for that role. There was only a 13% match score in this case. This could mean that it's just, I'm not the right person for that job, or it just could mean that I haven't tailored my CV properly. So Teal can help you, find those missing steps and missing keywords and make your CV a little bit better. It can also help you write a cover letter. So it uses AI. I'm pretty sure it just uses ChatGPT. So again, you can skip that step if you've already done it. But if not, you can just click on this little button here that says regenerate with AI, and it will write it for you based on your CV and based on the job description. So it is pretty good, and you can keep regenerating it a few times. I don't know if you have any amount of times, because you might have to start paying them. They have a premium subscription as well, but you can do it a few times until you get something that you really like. And I always recommend including a cover letter, even if the company doesn't ask for it, because again, it's something to make you stand out. Just make sure it's on the same file as your CV. It can be maybe after your CV, I would say, if you do it on top of the CV, which makes sense because it's a cover letter. But sometimes, people will open it and think it's just a cover letter. So I would put it at the bottom, so that once they get to the end, they actually see, oh, there's actually a cover letter, and it's a nice surprise. Don't do it as two separate documents because it will get lost. So people usually save those documents, load those files on their PC, on their laptops, and it's one per candidate usually. So if there's two, they're gonna just save the CV. Then the final step is really to just use Teal to keep track of your applications. You can see the deadlines that are coming up. You can quickly find information about each role if you need it. It will help you analyze the top skills required for any of the jobs that you're interested in. So if there's something there that you don't have yet, like a skill that you're missing, then maybe you should consider starting a course about the subject, for example. So let's say innovation was a skill that was mentioned on 13 of the jobs that I have. And I don't feel like I have that. Maybe I should take a course on innovation so that I can add this to my CV. This is really great for you not to get lost in your applications. It's quite difficult if you're applying for like hundreds of roles and then you hear back for an interview and you don't have access to the job description anymore. You don't remember exactly which version of the CV that you sent. So this is a way that you can keep everything organized and consistent. So I'm going to fly through this because we only have a minute. But this one, I really think it's most useful if you don't have a CV. It's great because if you have a LinkedIn profile that's pretty complete, it's going to help you create that first version of your CV so you can use it as a first step. But if you already have a CV that's really good, but you would like to check it for keywords, is pretty good because obviously, most companies are using LinkedIn. So you can compare the keywords in your CV to keywords that are most frequently used for the job title that you want. So the steps are go to linkedin.com, you create an account, or you should hopefully already have it. After you log in, at the top, there's a navigation bar there. You click on jobs. Then on the left, you see my jobs, job alerts, and then the fifth one is resume builder. So once you go there, you can upload your resume. Again, you can create it from your profile. I wouldn't recommend doing that unless you don't have anything yet and you're just getting started. But then after you create it, do go through those other steps that we mentioned here today. Use ChatGPT, use Teal, because if you only use this one, it's not going to be enough. Or you can upload your resume that you already have. You can type in the job title that you want. So in here, in my example, I typed in program manager, but it can be security officer. It can be anything. Then what's going to do is it's going to analyze your CV, which is going to be on the left. It's going to say the keywords that it found in your CV. So program management is there, engineering is there, budgeting is there, nonprofit is there, and communication is there. But then it's going to do what you need, which is suggest other keywords. So manufacturing process improvement, analytical skills, business analysis. Those are things that are not on my CV. and that they recommend I should have if I want to work as a program manager. And I actually do have analytical skills, and I actually do have business analysis and data analytics and team leadership. So I do have a lot of those. I don't have manufacturing process improvement, so I wouldn't include that. But the others I do have, so I would include those. And then you can go back to ChatGPT and say, how can you help me include these keywords in my CV? So that's pretty much it. Sorry, I went a little bit longer. But if there are any questions, we do have a little bit of time, I guess. So do let me know. And I might, how many of us are still left? I think everyone. So I might run my last poll just to see if this was useful or not. So after this workshop, do you plan to use one or more of these tools in your job search? And it's a yes or no question. So hopefully you can see the poll. Again, it's anonymous, so feel free to be honest. Great, 4 responses. And it seems like everyone said yes, so I'm happy with that. So thank you very much, everyone. If you do have questions, feel free to use the chat. Let me see if there's something on the chat. Feel free to use the chat. Feel free to unmute yourself. If not, feel free to go and enjoy the rest of your day. It was great to see everyone. Thanks for coming. And like always, I'll send some resources and the recording as soon as we have it up on YouTube. Okay? Thanks, everyone. Bye.